was going to call the actor studio and leave a message and tell them, okay, I don't know what to do, we can't come. But then I said, you know what? Why am I so in rush to cancel the session? It's because I'm afraid of what's going to happen. I was actually waiting for something that's going to give me an excuse. And then I said, don't do that. Don't do what's easy. You tell your actors not to do what's easy. So why are you being a hypocrite? Why are you not being bold the way that you ask of them to be bold? So stay bold, even with the fear. Pray and transform the fear into courage. I think it was Viola Davis who said that. Transform the fear with prayer into courage. Definition of courage. So then I said, you know what? Let me just not cancel. I'm going to go by myself and I'm going to ask the question that came to me by the famous actor Al Pacino, one of the presidents of the actor studio. What would you do in the process of working on a character? What would you do? Ask yourself, and even put it in practice. Do an improvisation and answer the question, what would you do if the other character in the scene does not show up? Because in life, you make plans to have meetings with people, to have rendezvous with people, and they don't show up, or they tell you last minute. Do you stop life, or do you go about? Because you are a character in your own life. Even if you're not an actor, you're the principal character in your own life. So what do? Do you stop life? Do you just not go on because life is not going as you expected it, or the plans are being turned upside down? No. You adjust, you adapt, and you go about it. And you maybe will come victorious at the end and will find something that you have not known about yourself, about your strength, about your power that you have. Or just surprise yourself by something that you have nowhere if you are not going on and doing it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go. And I'm going to go on that stage, no matter the fears, no matter the tension I'm going to feel, because I always am so scared when I go to act on the stage of the actor studio, which is normal because that's the same stage with all of the people that you can think of in today's industry and films that you love were at some time on that stage, from Dustin Hoffman to James Dean to Melissa Leo to Marilyn Monroe. But this beautiful place, I mean, I'm not so sure if this beautiful place is the one that they've all been on, but associated. I mean, this is the actor studio, the only in the one. It's not the school, it's the actor studio. This beautiful location used to be a Greek church. Greek, the same as my father being a priest, the same religion as we have, Orthodox. My dad, church. This used to be a church. Now I'm a member of this place that used to be a church, and now it turned into the one and only actor studio, and I'm part of it. My dad is a priest. Crazy. So I push myself. I don't sleep through the night, of course, because now I'm putting myself in a situation where I don't know what I'm going to do, and it's going to be crazy. I knew what I was going to do if my colleague friend was going to show up and we were going to do the scene. I as Anna Petrovna, him as Platonov. So we were going to be able to improvise, do the scene, do the two of them together. We were going to be two, and we knew what the structure of the scene was. But now I was saying to myself, what am I going to do? What do I do? How am I going to keep those people entertained for half an hour, the duration of the session? Because the other half hour then has to do with the feedback that you get from them. You're being asked the question of what did you work on, and then they're going to give you feedback. So it's a workshop, but at the same time, it's a workshop with spectators, with an audience. All of the members of the actor studio, they don't allow outsiders. We're part of a select. And I know other people, like in high positions, talk about the actor studio, and they put the actor studio and those people, those select people, on a high pedestal. And I'm so privileged to be part of it. Like, really, I am. Sometimes I feel guilty too, because I get to participate in this transformational work, and I get to be witness to others being transformative and riveting. And I get to learn so much. I got to be witness to so much, to so many wonderful moments within the last 20 years since I became a member. So I show up the morning of, and I'm shaking, and I'm going on stage, and people are there, and I'm like, oh God, what do you do as an actor when you're going on stage and you're shaking and your hands are trembling? You admit it. That's what you do first. You say, this is scary. I'm admitting it to myself. You don't have to speak it out loud, but you have to say it to yourself. Those are your inner thoughts. Give them allow them to happen in your head. And as soon as you become aware, they diminish. As soon as you become aware and you attend to them, that's what the relaxation comes from. Relaxation is active for actors. Relaxation is not you laying on your back and doing meditation. Actively, you're taking care of your nerves, you're admitting to them, you're focusing on them, and they become smaller and they allow you to go on with the next step, which is be specific. Specificity, which is hard to say. And some people are trying to use it at the actor studio sometimes, and I laugh because they say specificity. They say it's a specificity. Someone is like, okay, use a different word if you don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not the one to give lessons because I have an accent, I know. So if somebody comes back and says that, well, yeah, I do. It's okay. Anyway, so then the next thing was, okay, now I'm feeling much better. I gave myself a little bit of a pat on the back. Visually, I didn't really move my hand, but visually, I'm like attending to myself. Courageous to be here. You could have said no, it would have been much easier. Courageous. As I sat there, this overwhelming need took over. I was center stage and I was thinking to what my next moment was going to be, allowing myself to be in the present. And then all of a sudden, I said, my colleague did not show up. He thought of the other thing that he had to do to be more important. It didn't matter so much that he did not show up, but I think that tap that triggered something inside of me that was already there for a long time from something else that happened in my life, having not only to do with today. I said, what does this have to do with? And then something magical happened. This person came into my head, person from my real personal life, that I felt I didn't have time to deal with the way that we ended our relation between two humans. And I always was waiting for him and I was expecting him to come back at some point, or I was fantasizing over a moment where I was going to walk into him and he was going to apologize for the way that he behaved because he was a really jerk, really crazy. But then I said, you know what? Why am I allowing other people? Why am I waiting for other people? Why am I giving my power to other people? Because we spoke about that last episode. Why don't I take this opportunity, since I am so courageous to be here on the stage alone without a partner? Why don't I resolve that for myself? Resolve that for yourself, Michaela. So the next thing I said, what do I need to resolve that? I need to create that person real for me on that stage. So how do I do that? How do I do that? All of a sudden, the back of the wall of the actor studio is formed of bricks. And that, as I looked at it, I saw my shadow reflecting. Because of the lights, I saw my shadow and I said, what if I try to now, with my hand, approach the wall and try to outline myself? But then the next thought was, why don't I try to draw, imaginarily, of course, invisibly, but for me, with commitment to every specificity of who that person was and how tall and everything. And imagine that I can just magically make him appear. Once I draw him exactly with all the details, he's going to appear. Boom! And that's where the magic comes into the acting. And in life, if you want to, because you can use the same methods to imagine somebody in your home and have a conversation and do and say all the things that you need to do without having the person there. You do it. But if you do not distinguish between the reality and that game that you're playing, then go see a doctor. That's not acting anymore. Anyway, so I do that on stage. I'm doing it in front of people, therefore it's safe. It's the most safe that you feel on stage because you know that anywhere your mind is going to take you in your imagination, you are doing it in a safe place. There's people watching, so it's not like you have voices speak back to you. As soon as I drew that person on that wall and I made sure that I was paying attention to every detail, I let my arms relax next to my side. I took 2 steps back and I saw him. It was so clear that he was there. And what I did, I just needed to have that person embrace me and apologize for everything that he's done. So I turned my back. I was facing the audience at this time. And I went to lean on the wall, and as I leaned on the wall, I imagined and I felt, I really did, sensorily, I felt his arms. And I leaned my head, I tilted my head on my shoulder as if it was on his chest. And it just felt so good. And I heard an apology. I really heard an apology. So I was so proud of myself that I was able to create that moment for myself to that I've wanted to create for the longest time. And I didn't depend on anybody else, on that person to come at some point and say what I wanted that person to say in order for me to forgive him. So I was able to forgive him. As I'm doing that, and I'm thinking, already this is so much more than I expected. And I'm so proud of myself that I did not cancel the session. All of a sudden, I hear like thumps, 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 thumps sounds that are coming. It's almost like something was being thrown, like thrown things on the stage. And my eyes were closed as the embrace was happening from this invisible person, but real to me. Open my eyes, and I see a rain of flowers, of roses. These beautiful flowers. I think they were roses. I think there must have been like a whole bouquet of roses. Talk about bouquet of humanity, because that's where I want to go. That's how it started, with the bouquet of humanity and bouquet of roses. And then the whole session having the name of the journey of the flowers. As I'm sitting there and I'm standing there and I'm looking up, it looks like there's rain of roses coming up on the stage and upon me. And it was coming from the balcony, as the balcony of this beautiful church and now actor studio where the choir used to be still has the pews up there, but the lights were dark in the balcony as the stage was lit, of course. It seemed like the flowers were coming from my God. It was the most beautiful thing. I opened my eyes, I couldn't believe it, and then I hear the door. The whole floor, the whole stage of the actor studio is covered by the colorful flowers. So it was the most magical thing that I've experienced. Well, there were others, but this was one of those like really magical moments. It's almost like you already felt like you were in a film, and that was happening, only it was like theatrical. So it was cinematic, a theatrical cinematic event. Gorgeous. And then I heard the doors open to the theater, and then out of the darkness comes my colleague, the one who had canceled. What had happened during the audition that he had to cancel session for? He finished earlier than he thought that he was going to finish. So he decided to come back because he had so much respect for me and he felt so bad that he had to cancel last minute, that he wanted to be there for me for the last couple of minutes and he was hoping to catch me on stage. So he came without me knowing that he was going to show up. So the fact that I already got the respect back from the person in my life already, with the designing of him on the wall and him becoming real to me and imagining that he was there kind of apologizing and doing that already for myself, that same respect comes from other people. So respect yourself, give yourself the resolve in any situation that you need, get it from the other people without having to have the other people presently there. And then the respect will come from all around. So he came back, rushed from his audition outside commercially to come back and be there for me, and bought a bouquet of flowers and rained them on me to show his appreciation. Also, of the fact that I was courageous enough to go on stage without him. And then when I saw him, I was so happy to just see him. I would have never understood what he meant to me in that moment if the whole situation didn't happen. Him having to cancel actually led me to believe and to see our friendship to be of importance much more than I even knew before. I hugged him and I said, I am so grateful at this moment. I've never felt so grateful. The flowers, I'm grateful that you came back, that you rushed to be here knowing that I needed you to be here. But at the same time, I'm so grateful that you gave me the time that you canceled, because I don't think I would have ever known the power that I had if it weren't for you canceling and for me saying I'm going to go and still continue to do my work at the actor studio, even if I don't have somebody there, or if the scene is not going to happen in the predictable way that I thought of it happening. So I was grateful both ways. Of course, that remained because of those flowers coming out of nowhere. It seemed so beautiful, like they were coming out of the sky from God. That session was known as the Journey of the Flowers. Yeah. So I'm glad that I'm able to share this with you guys who are listening to Hey Stella podcast. And what the lesson would be is, don't let fear convince you to not try. Don't let fear and the voice that's of fear inside your head back down from any opportunities you have to do. Keep doing. The saying is good, the convincing and the talking is really good, but the doing, the action, action, action to me is action. It's not just act as in actors, it's like act, do, stand up, fight for you, for others who need you to fight for them. Act now. Don't wait until the time is right. Don't wait until you think the time will be extraordinary in your life and that's when you have the power to do it. You already have the power. The power is inside of you. You have to tap into it. And tapping into it doesn't mean that the fear is going to be completely gone when you do go to do something the same way that I did. I was so afraid. I'm still afraid. 20 years later at the Actor Studio as a member, still afraid every time I get up that I'm going to fail. Still afraid that I'm going to make a fool of myself. Still afraid that the audience is going to look at me, my colleagues, members are going to look at me and say, how come she's making mistakes after 20 years? Still afraid of being judged, still afraid. But every time I got up, no matter that I failed or I succeeded, I learned something. I brought more with me when I got off the stage when I failed than when I succeeded. Not to say succeeding feels really great in the moment and such a satisfaction, even if it's like temporary, but it's still like such a celebration of life and you and everything else. So yeah, successes are good too. I'm not saying you don't want to strive for that, but don't just back away because you're afraid you're gonna fail. You might surprise yourself and actually succeed in a different way than what you thought success was going to be. But I'm again double proud of myself for that session, and now proud of myself because I was able to do it again, to record myself again with a second take. And I hope this one is good. Hey Stella people, I'm so appreciative that I have this platform to share with you my experiences of a lifetime, because it is half a century when you think about it. So I do think I'm at a point in my life where my life lessons are sustained by a lot of hard work and sacrifice and successes. So thank you so much. I hope you will share this episode and all the other episodes from Hey Stella. And we hope to see you as our guest very soon. Thank you so much.